Hello and welcome. Welcome to everyone listening today. Thank you for taking time to your Dhamma practice, to strengthen your Dhamma practice. Thank you for listening to this channel. I know you have so many to choose from. I'm grateful that you have some confidence by listening to this channel. Today we're on page 58. 5 causes of liberation. In other words, 5 situations, 5 kind of mental environments or physical and mental environments that can be the environment where liberation may arise. Each of these is capable of creating a jhana concentration. Now, we've talked about the jhana many pages ago. There are usually referred to as 4 jhana. They're the most commonly referred to. There are 8. The first 4 jhanas are something that people who practice to go into deep states of meditation, trances, are practicing usually to enter, dwell, and exit these 4 jhanas. As I mentioned, there are a total of 8. The 8 are so supernatural or mysterious or incomprehensible to our unenlightened mind, they're seldom mentioned in the scriptures that I'm familiar with. So, it's not necessary in the practice in the forest monk tradition to go into the 4 jhanas, certainly not past the first jhana. The first jhana is sufficient for our success in practicing samadhi because there's still thinking, there's still the ability to analyze, to question, to debate, to investigate what is being taught, and to see how what is being taught relates to me. How does my life, how is it impacted or not impacted by this teaching that I'm learning? How have I integrated these teachings that I'm learning into my daily life? Is it just a theory? Is it just something I espouse? Is it just something I claim to believe? Or am I actually practicing what is being preached to me? So that's the difference between hearing and thinking about Dhamma and actually trying to integrate it as a daily practice. These are things that we're about to articulate that can help us to be successful. Number 1, a teacher or his assistant teaches the Dhamma. Okay, that means the teacher may not be fully liberated, but in teaching the Dhamma also gains benefit and may have a moment of insight or inspiration, a moment of release, a letting go of some ignorance that they weren't fully aware they were attached to, that they were clinging to, and they may experience some blessing of one of the 4 or even the ultimate level of liberation. That means that the teacher or his assistant, whoever is helping the teacher, is graced by hearing the Dhamma. I have a meditation teacher who listens to the recordings of the Dhamma talks that he gave the previous night because he doesn't sometimes remember or recognize that he knew something that came out of his mouth. The more pure the mind of the teacher, Dhamma is just using the teacher's vocal cords. The teacher isn't a person anymore. So the Dhamma is free to just express Dhamma using someone's vocal cords. Even if that person isn't fully liberated, the Dhamma may be able to give a great Dhamma talk, or at least a very good Dhamma talk, because enough of the sense of person, or that identity of ignorance as a person, has receded, and the pure Dhamma can then be expressed. Okay, number 2, one teaches Dhamma to another, realizing it for himself. Reciting Dhamma in detail, usually by chanting. So chanting is a very popular, an essential part in the forest monk tradition. The monks chant every morning before they start their day. They get up and go to the Dhamma hall and chant. They chant a little bit before breakfast. They chant in the evening after Dhamma talks, or just before Dhamma talks, to end their day. And the chanting is usually in the Pali language, but it's often been translated into the Thai language or Vietnamese language, etc., or even English. And the chanting is scripture. It's the teaching of the Buddha put into a chanting form, and the repetition. Now we're back to repetition. I mentioned it on the last page. A repetition again and again and again and again. We're just rubbing away ignorance. We're just scrubbing away. We're just sanding away the ignorance to get to the gemstone. In the New Testament, it talks about separating the gold from the dross. And the dross is the junk that we want to get out of the gold that's so-called polluting the gold. And when we burn off the dross, all that's left is 24-karat gold. In the case of gemstones, they get mined out of a mine. Let's use a diamond. And it's encased with a bunch of junk around it. And all that junk has to be removed until all that's left is the perfection of the diamond. And that's what we're doing when we practice Dhamma. We're burning off the dross, we're getting rid of the junk, and we're polishing that diamond until it's the perfect triple gem. Reading Dhamma in detail, usually by chanting, I guess I mentioned that, pondering, examining, mentally inspecting the Dhamma. Now, this is unique compared to certain other schools of Buddhism, where the meditation technique of going into jhana doesn't encourage us to ponder, examine, or mentally inspect the Dhamma. And in the second, third, and fourth jhana levels, the mind does not function in that way. And consequently, coming out of jhana is like coming out of a very pleasant experience. Over time, the vibrations of that good sensual experience dissipate, and you're back to, quote, normal. You may or may not have had any insights into the way the mind is working, how the mind is polluted, how to purify the mind, how to see one's own ignorance that may not occur at all while in the deeper jhanas. So in the forest monk tradition, we are determined to use the mind to examine the Dhamma, not to fantasize, not to fabricate, not to imagine, not to speculate, but to focus on Dhamma teachings, try to understand them at the deepest level, and then integrate them into the way the mind works, the way we speak, the way we act in our daily life. And if we don't ponder, examine, and inspect, we're just accepting what somebody else is telling us. That will never liberate us. It's a complaint some people have, me included, that other religions are totally faith-based. You are told to believe something without question. And if you were to question, then the devil has got hold of you and you're in trouble. You could be excommunicated from that religious order. Number 5 is an object of concentration. So this concentration is samadhi. It's the practice of meditation. You could have an object which, again, is not necessarily the image of the Buddha or some beautiful natural image. That object of concentration can be the thing that you're pondering, examining, and mentally inspecting. It could be the life of the Buddha. You could be contemplating, let's see, here's a guy who was the equivalent of a child of a billionaire. He had the finest clothes. He had 3 different houses palaces he could live in depending on the climate. He could go from season to different houses. He had 300 of the most beautiful girls dancing and playing music and otherwise entertaining him. He was married young. He was not a virgin, etc. He was going to be king. He was going to be ruler. He was going to have the most luxurious life he could possibly have. And he gave that up because he saw ultimately it's all subject to change, and especially old age, illness, and death. So, okay, let's think about that. And when he became enlightened, did he say, oh, wow, okay, I'm going to go back and be king? No, he wandered around begging for his food, barefoot or in some kind of simple sandal, and slept on the ground most of the time, ate questionable qualities of food most of the time, was subject to the whims of the weather, etc., etc. And he found that more valuable as a way of teaching than living a secular life. That could be an object of meditation for you. Okay, after liberation, nama khandas will appear and immediately disappear and won't be a long chain of fabrication because there is no kilesa to connect them. Okay, there's some Pali language. Nama is mental, rupa is physical. We talked about nama and rupa on previous pages. So, in other words, various thoughts will appear but immediately disappear without fabricating, without connecting one thought to another thought, to another thought, to another thought. That's fabrication. Those are called sankharas. This a long chain of fabrication, because kilesas are the forms of ignorance. They are concepts or values that we have that make us fabricate. They are the things that create vast forms of imaginations for us. So it doesn't say all thought stops, you're fully enlightened, no thought ever comes into your mind, you're just empty, you're walking around empty all the time. No. Thoughts are karmically generated, the same as physical experiences. They will arise. They will not take hold. There will be no interest in them. When Prajan Kanchit checks the scores of the soccer game, and let's say the team that he favors, used to favor as well, loses, okay, that's it. Oh, the team lost today. There's no regret, there's no remorse. He didn't lose any money gambling on whether this team would win. He had no overwhelming or powerful emotional attachment. He's just curious. Oh, did they win or lose today? Oh, they won today. Oh, they lost today. If they won today, he has the same reaction as if they lost. It's just information. It arose. Oh, today they lost. The end. Okay. Arahatamaga. So let's Arahat, we get that part. Now let's see what they're talking about, Maga. This happens in an instant. It extinguishes kilesa. Well, we just had that word kilesa in the last sentence. It's these pollutants, it's these misunderstandings, it's this kind of energy form that is troublesome to us. Tanha and the asavas that hide behind avidya. I realize this is a lot of Pali language. I could have translated the words in before I wrote them in the book, but here we are. Nirodha is the result. Nirodha is fruition. It's the end of all suffering. So tanha is when we cling to something. So first we crave, first we want something, or not wanting something. It's still wanting. When we don't want something, it's the same as wanting something. The subject changes. We don't want to suffer and we do want to have pleasure, but the wanting remains constant. So tanha and asavas. Asavas, if you remember, were the cankers. And I had canker sores when I was young. A friend of mine has a canker sore right now. They're really painful. There's funny little sores on our tongue or inside our lip. And chewing, even talking, can irritate them. And they're hard to cure. Anyway, these asavas hide behind avidya. Now, we had avidya as the first component of dependent origination. Dependent origination means something had to get started. How did this whole thing ever get started? What was the beginning of the beginning? The beginning of the beginning was avidya. And what is avidya? Let's put it in English language. Well, in Christianity is the devil. It's everything that's wrong. It's everything that causes suffering. It's everything that's, quote, bad. So let's, in the Pali Canon, it's avidya. And how do we define avidya? Well, avidya ultimately has the belief that there's such a thing as a person. So the foundation of our suffering is that we're a person. That was the beginning of this 12-step process of becoming a person. It had to start with the idea that there could be a person. And it's like an architect building a building of any kind, okay, or a musician composing a music. They have to have the concept that they can compose something, they can create something, and then what are the components that they're going to need? Are they going to need steel or concrete or glass or plastic or wood, etc.? Then what form will it take? How tall, how wide, how thick, how heavy, whatever it is. There has to be these components that create. But the beginning, before the components, is the idea. I'm going to build a building. I'm going to build a house. I'm going to compose music. I'm going to become an athlete or an engineer. I'm going to be a Dhamma student. Okay, now we have the foundation, and then we have to have ways to accomplish the goal. Okay, so it says this happens. The final step, the last step, like the last step of a 1,000-mile journey. It's the last step. In some ways, it's no different than all the other steps, except when the foot lands in the place of the last step, it's another world. It's another reality. The same foot touched the reality, and the minute it touches that, it's not the same foot anymore. There's no more person that owns that foot. Okay, Nirodha means the dissolution of, the ending of all forms of suffering. Fruition. Our efforts have borne fruit. The next paragraph. In proclaiming their liberation, which they are free to do, the Arahat does not say, I'm going to stop here. In the forest monk tradition and in the Pali Canon, monks are not allowed to tell lay people what level of achievement they have reached. But in this sentence, lay people, and earlier there was a quote, the Buddha said, if you have entered the stream and you want to tell someone, I've entered the stream as a lay person, you can do that. So the prohibition of not claiming to have achieved something or claiming to have achieved something is not prohibited by the teachings of the Buddha. They're free to do so. And within the congregation, the Sangha of the Buddhist monks, they can talk among themselves that they have achieved this or that. There are stories of the Buddha having monks proclaim to all the other monks what status they have achieved. So this is what someone who has achieved an Arahat would not say. They would not say, there is someone better than me, or equal to me, or inferior to me. And they do not say, there is no one better than me, or equal to me, or inferior to me. Now, let's analyze that a little bit. Why don't they say, I'm an Arhat and you're not? You're an Anagami, or you're not even a Sotapan. You're inferior to me, or you're not as good an Arhat as I am. And the reason is very simple. They're not a person. They're not comparing themselves to any other person, and they don't care if any other person compares themselves to them. It's a non-starter. They're no longer in competition with anybody because there's nobody to be in competition with. That's a pure and beautiful liberation. Having completed or reached the end of Brahmacharya, the morally chaste life, that means the virtues, they have perfected the virtues. They're not prudes. They're not obsessed with sinning if they do something sexual or sensual, but they have perfected the virtues. Having achieved success, we look back at the achievement. So, during the moment of even entering the stream, you are in the stream, you don't know it because there's no one who's there as a person in the stream. Yet there is this event that we call stream entry. And we can say the same for Sekadagami, Anagami, and Arhat. There is this event, but we don't know what it is because there's no one there to know what it is. Now, this is a mystery. If you're not clear on what I'm saying, good for you. Good for you. So, there is an event, but there's no person experiencing the event. That's what makes it so unique. After the event, sometime after the event, we reflect on what was that? What happened? Oh my gosh, I don't know what that was. And over some period of time, can be days, weeks, we realize, oh, that's what that was. Oh my gosh, that's what that was. I know several stories of people who entered the stream. One lady had a real temper, and she entered the stream on a meditation retreat in Thailand. She was a Thai woman, and she went to the teacher and she told the teacher she had this event. She didn't know what it was. She didn't know if it was worthy of telling him. But anyway, in this center, you spoke to the teacher once a day. The teacher checked you and talked to you, and you could ask questions. So the woman told about her experience, and the teacher said, "Congratulations, you have entered the stream. You're a stream winner." And she said, "No, I'm not. It's impossible. I'm just the same as I was before. You're wrong." She got so mad, she got up and left the meditation retreat. Because it takes some time to reflect and see how we've changed or not changed, the ways in which we've changed. And in the case of Stream Winner, they have less anger. As Sekadagami, they have very, very slow or unlikely to respond with hostility, rage, or anger. So maybe after she got home and she went back to her daily life and she saw that her husband didn't provoke her as much as he used to, or to the degree that he used to, etc., she may have begun to see, oh, well, maybe I am a stream winner. Even the Arhat, it takes some time to fully appreciate the fantastic phenomena of becoming Arhat. Okay, we're at the bottom of the page. We're talking about Nibbana. We're talking about liberation, freedom from all suffering, freedom from rebirth, etc. Nibbana, the unbinding of the mind from all mental affluence. So everything the mind does that causes suffering, asavas, we've unbound it, we've untied it, we have liberated ourselves from it. Asavas, defilements, those are kilesas, and the round of rebirth. That is a very brief but succinct definition of what liberation would look like. We still walk around with a body. We still go to the toilet. We take a bath. There's hunger. We eat. We sleep. We may read books. We engage in conversations. Many arhats, the teacher, Lung Ta, is currently traveling in England and giving Dhamma talks. He doesn't speak English, but he's traveled from Thailand all the way to England. He's spending a whole month there. He's having a normal life, except he's not a tourist. He's not craving to see famous landmarks or scenic views, etc. He's there to share the Dhamma. He has to talk. He has to get in buses or taxis or sleep in somebody's some strange bed or sleeping arrangement, etc. So that persists up until the time of death, but the mind remains pure. Thank you. Thank each of you who has listened faithfully and diligently and sincerely. You will be blessed. These seeds have been planted. They will bear fruit. You will be successful.